been singing it in the 1930s and 40s when I first heard it. But prettiest girl I ever saw was sitting inside of this straw. And then you keep saying that. And it has about 10 verses. And one of them, that's how I got my mother-in-law on the sitting inside. Now, 17 kids call me Paul from sitting inside. Didn't think so. It's really amazing. Last Sunday was Laban's Sunday, and I had a sermon. I was going to preach for Laban's Sunday, but now we pushed it a week later. This is not Laban's Sunday, but you're going to hear a Laban Sunday sermon. Okay? And I'm going to talk about a person that none of you ever heard of. I'm going to talk about him because he is a good example of just an average, ordinary Christian. And a lot of us don't think of ourselves maybe as average, ordinary men. That is, if you're like the young people that I heard the dean of a college was talking to the president, and he was he just reviewed all the applications for the freshman class at the college. And one of the questions on the questionnaire was, do you consider yourself a leader or a follower? And he said, I have found an amazing thing, that out of 273 applications, we have 272 leaders and 1 follower. What do you think of yourself? Are you a leader or are you a follower? Well, we'll find out when we get to this person that I want to talk to you about today. If any of you say, well, I know somebody who has a name like that, be sure to tell me when you leave this morning, because I would be willing to bet all of you a pretty large sum that you've never heard of anybody with a name like the man you're going to hear about. So, here we turn to Philippians, the 2nd chapter, beginning in verse 25, and you hear about him right off the bat. And I think it necessary to send back to you Epaphroditus. How about that for a name? Epaphroditus, my brother, my fellow worker, and my fellow soldier. Well, there you can see. Brother, fellow worker, fellow soldier, who is also your messenger, whom you sent to take care of my deeds. For he longs for all of you and is distressed because you heard that he was ill. Indeed, he was ill. He almost died. But God had mercy on him, and not only on him, but also on me, to spare me sorrow upon sorrow. Therefore, I am the more eager to send him back, so that when you see him again, you may be glad, and I may have less anxiety. Welcome him in the Lord with great joy, and honor men like him, because he almost died for the work of Christ. He risked his life to make up for the help you could not give me. Scripture's really strange sometimes. Here, Paul was writing a letter to some people he met a few years ago, and he made friends there, and these people wanted to have Paul. Now, here's a letter that he's sending back by a man named Epaphroditus, who the people in Philippi had sent to him, probably with some money to help him out in Rome. And so that's how we hear about this man. Well, when you think of Laban, who are Laban? Laban are the people who don't hold church offices. They're not ministers. In fact, Barbara's lesson with the children was quite apropos. She talked about the leaders, but most of the people in church are not leaders. They are followers. And that's a good thing. They are average people. Now, I know that some of you don't like to think of being an average person, but most of us are average people. You few leaders in the world, but most people are followers. Most of us are ordinary people. And so this is what the story of Epaphroditus is about. Let me just give you a few observations about it. Try to remember them because I think they'll help you out in your life. First thing about this man that comes to my mind is that he was a follower and not a leader. When students evaluate faculty, when they used to do this at VCU, and I used to receive faculty evaluations, one of the questions that we would ask on the faculty evaluations is, what grade do you expect in this course? I don't think I ever got a student who said, I expect a C in this course. Because maybe they thought that what they ought to say is that I aspire to get an A or a B. But they didn't say they aspire, they just said that I expect to get an A or a B in this course. But you have about 60 students in a class, and is it really to be expected that in a class of 60, they are all going to be A and B students? Out of 60, I mean, we've all heard of the bell curve, haven't you? The bell curve has the A's and the B's over on the short side, and it has the C's and D's over on the other side, and they have the D's and the F's on the other side, and the big center, as the bell rises, they're the C's, they're the average people, they're the followers. Well, it's hard to be ordinary because nobody pats you on the back, because nobody compliments you. And when you don't receive that kind of recognition, it's just pretty hard to keep doing what you're doing. But most people do these things. They do the commonplace ordinary thing. You think of the church, and what makes the church go, it's not so much the preacher or the choir director. It's you people, the simple, ordinary people, the people who do the things. People who fix the communion. You hardly know who they are. People who make sure that the table is covered with clean linens. People who hang the right colors for the liturgical services. People that pick up this or pick up that. People who go out and bring somebody to the church this morning. Ever hear of these people? They have the average, the ordinary people. And that's the kind of man Epaphroditus was. He wasn't an apostle. He's never heard of again anywhere in the Bible. Just this one place, this man with this strange Greek name. And so Epaphroditus was a man that you don't hear about because he's an average, ordinary person. Second thing about him, first thing about him is that he was a follower. He wasn't a leader. The second thing to note about him is that he saw a job that needed doing, and he did it. Goodness gracious, wouldn't the world be a wonderful place if everybody who saw a job just did it? And those jobs are out there for you almost all the time. Just a simple thing, and I cannot understand how people can just carelessly throw trash out of the window of their cars. When I go home from here, we go down the tollway and we get off at exit 83, I think it is. I know the exit, although that's the right number now. And take off to the right. When we go around that corner, it's a short corner, trash. I mean, people go out and pick it up, and it doesn't take long until it's out there again. But somebody comes up and picks that trash up because they know how ugly it is, and so they go out and pick it up. Wouldn't this world be a wonderful place if people who just see something that needs doing and do it? I was standing in line in Kroger the other day, getting a little annoyed because there was a person in front of me and then a person in front of her. I couldn't remember her PIN number. She needed a PIN number because she paid for about $22 or $23 worth of things that she bought. And so she looked through her purse and she took things out and laid them on. I'm always in a hurry. I really shouldn't be, because I get in trouble a lot of times for being so, pushy. Anyway, then something happened that mellowed me very quickly. The lady behind her told the clerk, she said, look, put her things on my card and they'll take care of it. And the little lady who was having trouble finding her PIN number turned and thanked her very, very warmly. And so the lady in front of me, then I said to her, I said, that was a beautiful thing you did. I said, how about me? I'll put your things on my card. We'll just take it on back down the line. We'll all do this nice thing. And she said, oh no. She said, I'm a Christian, and this is what Christians do, and I don't expect to be rewarded for it. Well, there's a person who saw something that needed doing, and she did it. And I felt pretty bad about him being impatient with the woman who was in front of her. And what a great lesson. And how we need people who, when they see things that need doing, do them. I'm sure that Epaphroditus, I don't know what kind of work he did, but whether he was retired, whether he was young, whether he had a job. We know very little about this man. All we know is what I read to you this morning. But do you know that it is 700 miles from his home in Philippi to Rome? And he had to go across the Aegean Sea. He had to walk. He walked all this. He didn't ride a horse. He walked this distance along Roman cobblestones, tough on his feet and his legs, 700 miles, and then he got ill on the way. We don't know exactly what kind of illness. Maybe he drank some bad water or something on the way. That happens when people get into a new area. But he did his job, and he didn't seem to ask any reward for it or anything. A job to do, and he did it. And so that's the second thing about this ordinary man that I want you to take note of. He was a follower, not a leader. He saw a job that had to be done, and he did it. And the third, last thing that I will say about it is that he chose Christ as his master, and he followed him. That's what the woman in line at the Kroger store did. She had chosen Christ as her master, and because Christ was her master, she saw a job that Christ would have done, and Christ had been there, and she did that job. What a wonderful core to inspire us to live lives of helpfulness and kindness and charity and sympathy and compassion for the people around us. Choosing Christ as our master. What an easy choice, I'm sure, for this man. He was a pagan. He wasn't a Jew. Epaphroditus. He was named after a Greek goddess. The name Epaphroditus simply means after Epaphroditus. His parents may have been members of that particular religious cult in the Roman Empire. There are a lot of religious cults in the Roman Empire. And this man could have chosen any of them to be a convert. Exactly how he became a Christian, I don't know. Could it have been that he was one of the jailers in the city of Philippi? If you remember the story, when Paul was in Philippi, back in the 16th chapter of the Acts of the Apostles, you can read about it. Paul goes about telling the people in Philippi the good news about the risen Christ and how he had transformed the lives and was beginning to transform the lives of people. Follow him, Paul was saying to people. And because he was preaching those things in the streets of Philippi, he was put in jail. And while he was in jail, he and his fellow evangelists, his name was Silas, they sang Old Testament songs, and other prisoners were taught those songs and joined Epaphroditus. He says he is my brother, and that's interesting in itself. He doesn't say a brother. He says he was my brother. There was a special tie between the two. And my fellow worker and my fellow soldier. It was Epaphroditus converted by Paul in prison in Philippi on that night? We don't know for sure. But remember how the jailers came in and asked the question, what shall we do to be saved? And Paul told them to believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, and you will be saved in all your household. And so he chose Christ as his master, and he served him. Ordinary man, common man, not a leader, but a follower, saw a job that needed doing, did it, and the inspiration for all of this was his love for Christ and his love for Christ's servant, Paul. Paul ends up saying, when you read about people like this, when you hear about people like Epaphroditus, I want you to honor those people. Hold these people in honor. And what I want you to do with him is to think deeply about him. Think of his characteristics. Carry these three characteristics in your head. And you and I will be much better Christians. Amen.